Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
You know how we do it around here, getting into
Yeah.
the nitty gritty of some really fascinating topics. And today we're diving into something pretty controversial, pretty interesting, and something that we all kind of probably have thought about a little bit, but never really maybe dug too deep into.
Yeah.
And that is, the U.S. sells all these advanced fighter jets, the F-35, all over the world.
Right.
To a lot of different countries, to allies, to strategic partners and everything.
Yeah.
But the question is, what if they could like remotely disable them?
Yeah, it's a big question, right?
That's like some real almost like science fiction kind of stuff.
Almost like a kill switch, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Could they just like turn it off if they wanted to?
So today, that's what we're going to be looking into. Can the U.S. disable F-35s that they've already sold to other countries? And we're going to be going through some expert analysis on this. And it is a very, very, how do you say, it's not clear, right? It's a very murky kind of subject.
It's shrouded in a lot of secrecy, which I think is what makes it so interesting to kind of look at.
Right.
Because, there's not a lot of public information about it, but we can kind of glean some insights by looking at, how these systems tend to work.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how the defense industry works and things like that.
So, I mean, I guess the first question would be, is it like, like you said, kill switch? Is it as simple as with a drone or something, like just hitting a button,
right,
and it just goes offline? Or is it more complicated than that?
Yeah, I think with the F-35, it's a lot more complicated. I mean, we're talking about a very sophisticated weapons platform here with lots of different systems.
Right.
One thing to consider is the flight control software.
Okay.
So the software that actually controls the plane's movements and everything. And with the F-35, users are actually given access to that code, so they can check it and they can make sure that there aren't any backdoors or anything built in that would allow it to be controlled remotely.
Oh, wow.
So that's one safeguard.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So they could actually go in and audit the code that makes the plane fly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not quite as simple as that, but yeah, the idea is that they can inspect the code and make sure that there's nothing malicious in there.
So that's a pretty good kind of check and balance right there.
It is, yeah. But, there are other systems on the jet that are a little bit more of a black box.
Okay, I was going to say, I feel like there's got to be more to it.
Right.
Because if it was just that easy, then I feel like everybody would just be like, well, what's the point?
Exactly, yeah. So one of the things is the system and data integration software.
Okay.
And this is software that kind of manages how all the different systems on the jet communicate with each other and process data and things like that. And the U.S. does not give out the source code for that software.
Interesting. So why the secrecy on that specific software?
Well, it controls some pretty sensitive functionality, things like weapon systems, sensor data communication links.
All right.
And so giving out the source code for that could potentially compromise the security and effectiveness of those systems.
Okay, so it's like the crown jewels.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the super secret sauce.
Exactly.
Okay, so they're not sharing that. But isn't that kind of is that kind of, I don't want to say suspicious, but is that kind of a potential vulnerability then?
Well, yeah. I mean, the fact that code isn't open to inspection,
right,
does raise some concerns, because it's possible.
Yeah.
That there could be some kind of mechanism hidden in there.
They could allow them to disable it, even though, like you said, they can look at the other code.
Right, exactly.
But they can't look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's worth noting that even without the source code, security researchers can still kind of analyze the software's behavior.
Oh, really?
Looking at what kind of communications it's making, how it's responding to different inputs, things like that.
Oh, okay.
So, it's not like they're completely blind.
Right.
But it does make it a lot more difficult to figure out exactly what's going on.
So it's like, they have the clock and they can see the hands moving.
Right.
But they don't actually know what's going on inside the clock.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good analogy.
So, wouldn't it be really, really hard to make a disable mechanism?
Oh, yeah.
How would they even do that?
Yeah. I mean, it would be incredibly complex. You'd have to have some way to communicate with the jet remotely.
Right.
And you'd have to be able to do that reliably and bypass any kind of security measures
that
are in place on the aircraft.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you could just send it like a text message or something, right? Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It would have to be some kind of secure communication channel. Maybe using satellite links or some kind of, encrypted channels.
Yeah.
And, it would have to be able to, either override or bypass any kind of local safeguards on the aircraft.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say, like, hypothetically, let's say they did have this ability, right?
Right.
What would it even look like? Would it just be like, they flip the switch and the plane just falls out of the sky?
I don't think it would be that dramatic.
Okay.
A more likely scenario is that it would target specific systems.
Okay.
So, maybe they could limit the jet's range.
Okay.
Disable weapons systems,
Right.
disrupt communications, things like that.
Oh, so it would be more about, like, making it, like, useless?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's more about rendering the aircraft ineffective.
Okay.
Rather than, causing a catastrophic failure.
So it's like grounding it, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we've got this, incredibly advanced piece of technology, a fighter jet that can, do all this amazing stuff.
Right.
But potentially it's got this leash
Yeah.
that the U.S. is holding.
Yeah, potentially.
And they could just yank it
It's a possibility.
at any time.
Wow.
Wow.
It really makes you think about, the implications for international relations
Oh, yeah.
and things like that, because if a country can just disable the weapons systems that they've sold to another country,
Right.
that really changes the dynamic.
Yeah. It really changes the balance of power.
Exactly.
It's like you're selling somebody a car, but you've got, like, a secret way to, like, turn off the engine.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like a backdoor to the car.
So, I mean, this is like a pretty big deal, right?
Yeah, it's a huge deal.
Like, this is something that could really affect how countries interact with each other.
Absolutely, yeah. And it raises questions about, trust and sovereignty,
Right.
And, the potential for coercion.
Yeah, because if you're a country that's bought these jets from the U.S. and you know that they have this capability,
Right.
it's kind of like you're always going to be looking over your shoulder a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, you're never really sure if you're truly in control of your own
Right.
defense.
So what are your, final thoughts on this?
Yeah.
I know that, like we said, there's not like a definitive answer.
Right.
But, just kind of based on everything that we've talked about. What's your take?
Yeah. Well, I think, the fact that there's so much secrecy around this issue
Right.
really speaks volumes. I think it shows just how strategically important these technologies are.
Right.
And, the lengths that countries will go to maintain control over them.
Right.
Whether or not the U.S. can actually disable an F-35 remotely, it's still a mystery.
Right.
But I think the possibility alone really raises some crucial questions about the future of warfare and international security.
Yeah. We're talking about, like, some pretty serious stuff here.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is like, this is kind of changing the way that we even think about warfare.
Right.
And
I think it's a reminder, too, that, technology is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And what might have seemed like science fiction, a few years ago is now becoming, a very real possibility.
Exactly. Yeah, it's blurring those lines.
Exactly.
Well, this has been another fascinating deep dive.
Yeah.
It's really amazing to kind of get into these really intriguing topics that, we all kind of think about.
Yeah.
But we don't always necessarily have the time to
really dig into.
So thank you for sharing your expertise with us, and
of course
for helping us to better understand this very complex topic.
Happy to be here.
And for everybody listening out there, keep those minds curious, and we'll see you next time
See you later
for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Take care.